Okay, so you're back for more video capture fun. In my first video, I covered the DigitNow game capture box, and I'm not using these game capture boxes to capture games, because I look at a lot of reviews on YouTube and a lot of reviews online. They're all geared toward people who are going to play games through these. I'm not playing games. I'm recording VHS, laser, Betamax, or cable TV, trying to get cable TV into them. Because real-time MPEG-4 encoders, if they're good enough, I think that would be a lot better than going to DVD, way better, of course, than going to VHS tape. If you get a file, I can put on a server and play, and on my Apple TV or wherever. I think that's a really great value, and a lot easier than a disc. So, okay, the DigitNow game capture was kind of a wash. I mean, it was okay. It was okay, but it died in 3 days. It was just a cheap Chinese box. So I started looking back on Amazon for or is there something like this that's a little bit better quality? And I stumbled upon these HDMI-Cloner boxes by this company Cloner Alliance, and I'm like, okay. So this is kind of probably like a Chinese, Korean, Asian company, but they seem like they're a little more higher profile. They actually have a website. They have some products. They've got a presence. And I saw this HDMI Cloner box, and then I saw the HDML-Cloner Box Pro. I don't know why it's called HDML. I don't know, but HDML-Cloner Box Pro. The first thing that really captivated me about the HDML-Cloner Box Pro is that, first of all, it looks compared to the other boxes, it looks really well made. It looks cool. If you look at the inputs, it of course, it has an HDMI input. It has a component input. But it also has a composite input. It has a little AV. It has the yellow composite in the little dongle that you connect. And so I was like, man, maybe this might be a good thing for capturing VHS, because a lot of these boxes, like the Elgato and the AverMedia boxes and the Razors and the other boxes, Hopage, they have HDMI in. Some of the kind of off-brand, like the DigitNow, have component, but very few of them have composite in. This is one of the few that actually has a composite in. And so it's a little more expensive, but it has a remote control, and it has a menu system, and it's all neat. So I got it, and oh my God, the thing looks beautiful. It's a little puck, about the size of the Apple TV second generation, the little black puck. But it's smaller, it's sleeker, it's got the top of it the HDML logo lights up, and then it blinks when it's starting up, and then it blinks whenever it's capturing video. Oh my. So immediately I was like taken by, this is some good looking tech. This is something that has a little bit of a touch to it. Blinking lights, very very entrancing. Immediately I began to be disappointed by the fact that, as far as capture, unlike the DigitNow, this thing is basically locked to capturing HD resolutions at 60 frames per second. On the nice remote, it's got a 720p button, it's got a 1080p button, and then you can cycle through some PC resolutions, all 60 frames per second. You cannot capture any lower than 720, in the 720p resolutions directly on this box. It does have some software, some Windows software, where you can actually connect a computer to it and apparently capture 480p 60 frames per second on the computer. but I don't. I tried to install the software on a virtual Windows in Parallels on my Mac, and I got it to be recognized. I got it to work. It didn't capture correctly, but that could have not have been the software. It could have been the fact that it's virtual software. So I don't know about that, you know. But okay. So that was the big disaster, that the thing has a composite input, but you can't just record basically a standard definition 720 by 480 30p file. It's all, you know, your recordings are all going to be 720p or higher, 60 frames per second. Okay, so that's a disappointment. And you know, it's got the component connectors. I connected the component connectors to my DVR, to my cable box, and started some recordings. And the quality, it has 3 quality levels of low, mid, and high. And the video quality is actually pretty good. The sync was rock solid for small captures. I did a larger 90-minute capture, and I did notice toward the end that the sync was off by not even a half second, but it was annoying because the sync at the beginning of this cable movie that I had captured was better than the end. So the sync had drifted, you know, very, very, very slightly. The first thing I tried to do with this box is upgrade the firmware, because there is a 1.10, a 1.10 version, beta version of the firmware, which allows you to capture to NTFS formatted flash drives files that are bigger than 2 gigabytes. Otherwise, this by default, you plug in your flash drive to this thing, you press the record button, very much like the Digit Now box, and it just starts recording from the input that you selected, and it splits it. This one splits it at 2 gigabyte files, unless you use this new beta firmware. Installing the firmware was really difficult because the instructions on the website and in the firmware zip file didn't seem to work for me. First of all, it says use a FAT32 drive, and I used an NTFS drive, and it did work. A couple of my thumb drives, there was one thumb drive that didn't work. I had to switch to another one. And then it says, what it says is you connect the power, you plug in your flash drive with a firmware, you power the device up, it does a fast blink, and then it goes to a slow blink. Well, my device fast blinked constantly. With this, first of all, it didn't work with the first flash drive. It just powered up, fast blinked, and then went to the solid, which is usually what it does. The second flash drive I used, it just fast blinked, and I left and I came back and it was still fast blinking. I went ahead and powered it off, looked at the flash drive, the firmware, the Jedi.img had disappeared, and suddenly I was able to capture files that were larger than 2 gigabytes. So you know, so the instructions are a little bit weird, but so the instructions are a little deceptive, and so you put in the firmware, wait, it keeps fast blinking, you power it off, and then you check to see if the Jedi.img has been deleted. If it has, and you can capture larger files, then that's it. I mean, it's a shame, this thing. I mean, it can capture from component really well. The video quality is very nice, is very good. It has some weird quirks though. I mean, like when you press record, it has an on-screen display that says recording, and that's captured to the file. And then it has on the remote, it has a 4:3 and 16:9 aspect ratio settings. But if you change it to 4:3, all it does is it just pillar boxes to a 4:3. It still stays in 16:9 mode and still captures 16:9 pillar boxed video. I mean, it's funny. What I'd like to do right now is kind of stop this, and I'd like to show you the on-screen display and some of the other stuff, and we just kind of go over all of the settings and stuff, because it's kind of interesting. Now, I haven't seen any reviews of this HDML-Cloner Box Pro online, so let me show you that. Let me run you through all of the on-screen settings for this thing, because there's some interesting stuff there. Okay, this is what you see when you press the home button on the remote. You get the system time. Time is in military time. You got the year, month, date, hour, minutes. And you want to set up the system time because there is a very primitive timer recording. You can have one event. You can specify the start and the end, again in military time, hours and minutes. And you can either confirm or cancel that. And then you've got the recording resolution that's next. That's high, low, and middle. Again, just the amount, the size of the MP4 it creates. And then you've got something here called software update. Now, again, the software update is usually when you start it up a different way. It just gives you that error message. I don't know if that's something they're planning on doing. Picture mode is just the color, some color controls, color temperature, aspect ratio. That's the same thing as the button. It does the same thing on the remote. And there's another thing called screen there. I don't know what that's. It's inactive. Some sound controls here. OSD controls, and then the version number. The version, for some reason, it didn't change when I updated the firmware, so I'm not sure if that version number is related to the version of the OSD. It does not seem to be the version of the firmware. Now, this device also does have some rudimentary media playback functions. You get them by clicking on the playback button on the remote, and it's really confusing, difficult to navigate, and it also stutters. I was really stunned when I tried to play some video, and it was like the video was kind of stuttering. I'm like, oh man, something's going on here. I yanked the flash drive out and put it into a computer. The playback was silky smooth, but for some reason, the playback on the device, I guess it just doesn't have the horsepower. It kind of stutters a little bit, but the video quality is actually, it's not affected. It's just the playback of the device itself. And also, let me go ahead and just give you a really brief grand tour of this device. Really cool. So in the front, you've got the IR receiver. You've got the record, start, stop. Just like the other devices, you can just press that button on the front to start or stop your recording. You've got the source to select the source. And then you've got a power button. You've got an actual power button. On the side of the device, you've got a jack for headphones, a jack for a mic, because remember this is a game capture device. You can plug in your mic and talk over a component imported video. And then you've got the USB port for the flash drive or USB hard drive where you can save the video to. On the back of the device, you've got power, you've got HDMI out and in, and then that MMI in, which is the dongle input. The dongle, unlike other dongles, other devices, which are really a little tiny jack or maybe a little micro SD size port, this is actually a full-size HDMI port. It looks very robust, but you can accidentally plug an HDMI video connector in there. So I've done that a couple times here, and so I'm sure a lot of people will. And then finally, you've got a USB to PC port, which is basically you can use this device as basically a USB capture device on your computer running the HDML-Cloner Pro Helper software. Okay, so that was the HDML-Cloner Box Pro. I think the pros of it are it's stylish. It's one of the most stylish of these boxes, these game capture boxes I've really ever seen. More stylish than the stuff, the name brand stuff from Elgato or Hopage or whatever. Which Hopage with those odd shaped crap. This looks nice. The minus is you can't capture in SD resolution. You're locked to basically a 16:9 resolution, capturing at 60 frames per second. And also there was some of the weirdness with that firmware install, which again wasn't a big deal. It just wasn't the direction. I think that, and the thing is also the audio sync is a little bit off. I mean, if you're playing some kind of beat 'em up, shoot 'em up, whatever first person shooter game, you're really not going to notice the sync. I also should point out that I did capture a long 2-hour stretch of video in separate 2 gigabyte files, and the sync seemed to be consistent with those files. There was only when I enabled the longer. So it may be something, the audio sync may be something that can be corrected in a firmware update. Again, when running beta software, so that could be the case. But again, that's kind of I think the slight, very, very slight audio sync issue combined with the being locked to 60 frames per second, HD resolutions is kind of a buzzkill for me. It's kind of a buzzkill when one of the main things I'm wanting to do with these boxes is be able to record SD content at basically 720 by 480, 30 frames per second. I don't want to have to deal with all of the weirdness there. So, but overall, if you don't have any problems with that, this HDML-Cloner Box Pro is actually a really nice buy, really interesting stuff.